The cerebral cortex can be divided in four major sections, which are known as lobes. The frontal lobe, in blue here, is located at the front of the brain and is associated with higher level thinking, like decision making, reasoning, forethought, planning, attention focusing, multitasking. It is also involved in motor skills, personality, and impulse control. The frontal lobe is thought to be more developed and complexly wired in humans than any other species of animal. In other words, it is thought to be what makes you human. Damage to this part of your brain can result in many deficits, including significant personality change. The parietal lobe, in yellow here, is located at the top middle section of the brain, and it is associated with processing tactile sensory information, such as touch, pressure, and pain. Your body is mapped out in the parietal lobe, with certain sections processing tactile information for certain parts of the body. But some parts of your body get more processing space than others. If the size of your body parts was represented by their processing area in the parietal lobe, you'd look more like this. Notice significantly more processing areas given to the hands and the face. The occipital lobe, in green here, is located in the back portion of the brain and is associated with interpreting visual stimuli and information. So information from the eyes travels all the way back here for interpretation to determine what it is that you are seeing. Damage to this lobe can cause visual problems such as difficulty recognizing objects, identifying colors, recognizing words, and even, if it is extensive enough, complete blindness. This is called cortical blindness, meaning there is nothing wrong with the equipment of the eyes. The problems are in the occipital lobe. So the parietal lobe processes touch and the occipital lobe vision. Now the temporal lobe in pink is located on the lower sides of the brain. This lobe is involved in processing the rest of the senses. So auditory, hearing, olfactory, smell, and gustatory, taste. Damage to the temporal lobe can lead to problems with hearing, smelling, and tasting. Now, the hemispheres are symmetrical in lobe function, except for language. Language is uniquely a function of the left hemisphere. Broca's area in the frontal lobe is responsible for language production, and Wernicke's area in the temporal lobe is responsible for language comprehension. Former Congresswoman Gabrielle Gifford suffered language production deficits, but not any for language comprehension when she was shot. So in which lobe was she shot? And that would be the frontal lobe. My friend had a brain tumor removed from his temporal lobe last year. He can no longer hear out of his right ear, but he is very fortunate because he can still understand language. In which hemisphere would you guess his tumor was located? And that would be the right hemisphere. There are also copies of this figure, with and without labels, posted for you with Broca's and Wernicke's areas indicated to study before your next exam. Beginning with our next segment, we are now ready to weave this basic knowledge of brain chemistry and brain anatomy into a coherent story of sleep.